So this is yesterday we created one project called My First Java Project, and in which if you expand there is an SRC folder in which there is a file created. You need to keep your voice like mute. Whenever you wanted to talk, just unmute it and you can talk. And also you can chat. Now this is the project what we created and this is the file which is created. And whenever you wanted to access this workspace, physically you can access in C drive. There is a folder with the workspace name and in which you can find the projects and in which SRC folder contains the Java files. And now let us create one more project today. File, new, Java project. Language basics is the project name. Next and finish. So whenever you create a new Java class, it is not required every time to create a new project. Within a single project, we can create multiple classes. Just I am repeating the procedure how to create a new project. When a project is created first time, there is a simple SRC folder will be there. Now, if you look into this workspace, you can observe here. See, there is one more project is created. This is called workspace folder. And now, when there are multiple projects are created in this workspace, if you wanted to switch to some new workspace, even you can create another workspace. File, switch workspace, you can say other, and can give, let's say, one more workspace name. Nothing but one more folder is created. Whenever you select switch workspace, right, Eclipse will close and restart with the new workspace. So now again it is going to start with the new workspace in which there is no projects available. Now it is started again. You close this welcome window. Now this is again Eclipse IDE only, but there is no projects available because it is a new workspace. Right? Whenever we are working with some different projects like this, we can switch from one workspace to another workspace. Workspace is nothing but a folder into which some projects are created. Now, here you can see all the available workspaces. Let us say now currently we are into Java batch 1 and the old workspace is this. If you want to switch to that, again you can switch it. Right? That is called as a workspace. And always here your perspective should be selected as Java. And then you need to, means whenever workspace is, this perspective is changed, the look and feel, the available commands and your toolbox and your palettes, whatever is displaying menus may differ from type of the project what we are going to create. Java means core Java application. J2E means like server side applications, right? We have JavaScript, HTML, then database application development, various kinds of applications can be developed. This is called perspective, the kind of applications you develop. Initially, we are working with Java perspective, in which create a new project again. Project is created, SRC is a folder. Right click on the project and let us create a new class. Now I am giving the class name as demo. I am including public static void main. So this is a class which is created in which we can write the code. So today's topic is we are going to start with language basics. Yesterday we have just discussed the introduction to Java part. What are the different flavors, history, Java features, right? Today we are going to start with language basics. Myths like what are all the data types available, right? What are all the operators, what is the syntax, that all we are going to learn. So first, what is an expression and a statement? Every line in the program is called as a statement, right? And whenever you form some expression kind of thing to evaluate something, that is called as an expression. And every statement should end with a semicolon. Keywords. Keywords is nothing but set of keywords which there is a specific purpose for each and every keyword. We have to make use of those keywords only for that purpose. We cannot change the definition of any word from this list of keywords. Variables. Variables are nothing but like a containers. We will give our own name and we will assign the data type. This is mainly used to store some values inside. For example, I am going to take two numbers. Let's say first number is 10. Another number I am going to define second number equal to 20. Then I am taking that int sum equal to first number plus second number. Simply I am adding. And then I wanted to print the sum of these two numbers. Right? Simply I can say sys out control space bar. Right? And then I can say that result plus the sum variable. Or else just you can also print only sum. Like this also you can give. So here the first number, second number are called variables. Variables are nothing but into which we will store some value. We will declare the data type variable and store some value. You are performing some operation. And now if you run it, you can observe the result. Right? So variable is nothing but the containers where we will store some value and those values can be changed at runtime. One time you can give some different values. Coming here, when you are choosing the names for these variables, you need to follow certain coding standards. So usually what we will do if you open any books or any online tutorials, naming conventions, right? This you need to follow from the beginning when you start learning the language. It's nothing but suppose you can give like this also, like int a equal to 10 and then int b equal to 20, then int c equal to a plus b as well. But this is not an industry standard coding conventions. If you use like this, it become like a beginner level. So you have to appropriately choose your variable names. And whenever you choose the variable names, it should be related to your application, what you are intended to do with this program. So let's say first number, second number, or first, second, like that you have to take the names with a meaningful conventions. So that is what we can see here. And here, whenever the variable name is bigger, so you have to use camel case. Camel case means starting with small letter, and whenever new word starts, it should start with a capital letter. For example, let us say name of the student is there. So you should start with N, OF, O capital, student. This is the correct way. Right? Let us say average salary. Average salary. S should be capital. This is the convention you need to follow. And always in Java, class name preferably starts with capital. Right? Capital letter you have to use. And functions with small letter. Variables also small letters. For example, if I write some function here to do some logic, that should start with small. But when you write a class, it should start with capital letter. That is a coding conventions. Even if you give demo small letter also, it's okay, fine, it will run. But the thing is, it is not a standard. This is a simple thing you have to observe when you create your select your variable names. And next is initialization. Initialization means as soon as you create, assigning some value. Let us say here we are doing that initialization. Initialization means giving the some value as soon as it is created. We can also give this first number value at runtime. Means instead of giving 10 and 20, we can give some runtime values. How to give that we are going to see now. Now here initially first you are giving 10 and 20 and you are running it, and if you run this program 100 times also you will get the same result, right? This is what is called as initialization, giving some startup values. Rather in Java we can use another process called scanner is a class, right? This is a syntax you have to use so that you can read the inputs at runtime, and this scanner need to be imported, which is available from one library called java.util. The purpose of this scanner is to read some input from the keyboard. Right? Now first number, second number, I wanted to read my own values whenever I run. So now I can make use of rather giving this 10 and 20. Right? How we can give is now. See, int first number equal to scanner object name is S. Next int is a predefined library function to read an integer variable. Next is second number. Again same function. Next int. So here itself it is taking one integer, another integer, two numbers are stored, and you can find sum and you can nicely get the result. Now let us run it. When you run it, it is expecting some input from you. So you can give now 45 and some other number. You will get this. And when I run again, I can give some other values. So this is called giving the values at runtime. Runtime inputs. Whatever you give, you can get it. Right? So the process of giving these values is called as initialization. And this values reading process is called as runtime values. To read runtime values in Java, we need scanner. Scanner is a predefined class. And you have to make use of scanner means you have to import this, right? There are certain things we are going to learn, like what is import, right? What is system.in and all. As of now, you just need to remember that scanner is a class to read something from a keyboard, and sc is an object name. Next int is a function to read an integer. In the same way, we can read all the other types. We can read float, double, long, boolean, character, all data types we can read through the same scanner. Following all of you?
Yes.
So that is what is here explained, like variables and initialization. There is a scope. Scope is nothing but we will be discussing like what is class variable, instance variable. As of now, you should understand only the local variable. Local variable means within a function when we declare some variable, then it is called local variable. Means the scope of this variable is only within this function. We cannot use outside of the function. And what is instance variable, class variable, that we are going to see. Just now try to understand what is a local variable. So local variable, whatever you declare like this is called as a local variable. Class and instance, you will get confusion. I will explain you in our coming session. Coming to the very basic thing called as data types. Data is nothing but the raw values what we give as an input to a program, right? So this data in object-oriented programming languages, two types. One is called primitive data types, which are supplied by the language, and reference data types, which are called object-oriented data types, which is called classes and objects. Here it is primitives. Primitives means Java supports total 8 primitives, like char, boolean, byte, short, int, long. This is all the 8 types. So this is the size of your data types, like how much of memory it is going to occupy. What is the lowest value? What is the highest value? This is a range of values you can store with float, double, int, like this. Out of these 8 types, byte to double all are numeric data types, but the range is different. If you look into byte, minus 128 to 127. See, sometimes you need to store some number which is within that range. You don't go for integer because integer is occupying 32 bytes. Right? Here it is only 1 byte. See, byte. It is 32 bits, means 4 bytes, right? So depends on our requirement, we have to choose whether to go for byte, short, int, long, float, double. Coming to double, it is fractional values it can store. Depends on our requirement, we have to choose. All are numeric types. Coming to character, it can store a single character. Boolean can store either true or false, only 2 values. We will do simple example with all data types so that you will get an idea. See, first byte, I'm storing some number. The range of integer is big, long, float. In Java, the float is also a fractional value and double also fractional value. If you don't give the suffix for a float, right, you will be getting a conflict between the float and double types. So float variables should be given a suffix called f always here, and double it is not required. Double d equal to, the range of double is very big. So now these are all the 6 integer or numerical types. Coming to Boolean. Boolean, something you wanted to store, either true or false. And coming to character, character option equal to either yes or no, single character you can store. Now any of these variables you wanted to print it, you can use start. Whatever you wanted to print, you can print it, result. This is a Boolean value. Just you can try to print all the data types. Let's say byte, float, integer, all these types. So these 8 data types are called as primitive data types. Primitives. Just like a C language, how we have the data types, in the same way these are called as the primitive data types. And the other important data types that we are going to experience in Java is called reference data types. References means objects. Most of the time we will be working with these classes and objects because primitives are not safe. Primitives are always not safe because primitives are just like your C language values, right? So the data is getting... Hello? Any problem in the connection?
Technical issue. Hello?
Yes, Monica and Vineet. Any problem in the connection?
అప్పుడప్పుడు వినిపించట్లేదు.
Okay, no problem. I am just recording the session. You don't need to worry. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the primitive data types which are always not secured because this is same like C language. Suppose if you create it, it will be stored in a stack memory. If it is stack memory, when your program execution is finished, this will not be destroyed, which is not safe. Primitives are always not safe. So we should work with an object. What is an object? How it will be secured? We are going to see practically. So this is 8 primitive types we have. How to declare, how to initialize, how to store the values. Some certain examples are given. You just need to go through that. And here one important thing is called type conversion or called type casting. Casting is nothing but converting from one to other. Let us say I have int a equal to 10. Now I wanted to convert a into double, right? I can say double something x equal to a. A is an integer. Now integer got converted into double directly. This is called implicit conversion, or called as upcasting. It is called as upcasting. Implicit means integer a is directly converted into double when you copy like this, which is called implicit. Likewise, all these 6 types, int to long or long to float or float to double, any type can be converted into any other higher range values. When you look into the range of those primitives, so the lowest is byte. First is byte, then short, right? Then int, then long, then float, then double. So you can convert from lower to higher, which is called upcasting. Now we are converting integer to double. Any other type to any other you can convert, right? In the same way, we can also convert reverse. Means upper to lower also you can convert. It means sometimes you store some final bill of some product in double. But if required, if you wanted to represent that into integer, yes, you can convert. Something you have in bytes and then you wanted to convert into long. Yes, it is possible. Both the way you can convert the data from higher to lower or lower to higher. That feature is called as casting. So now in this example, first we are doing with upcasting, or also called as widening. Widening means converting lower range values to higher range values. Now if you would like to print these values, see this plus is nothing but just for concatenation. You are printing first a value, then you are printing x value, right? And in between you want to get some blank space, so you are giving just plus symbol. Now you are able to print 10. When it is a is printed, it is integer. When it is converted into double, you are getting it as 10.0. 10 is converted into double. This is called upcasting or implicit casting or widening. Now vice versa. Means I have m, which is a double, equal to, this is my double value. Now I would like to convert this into an integer, right? I can convert int n equal to m. But can I convert directly? M is double, right? Higher range value. N is smaller range value. Now when I try to convert higher to lower, it is not possible directly, which is called explicit typecasting, or also called as downcasting, also called as narrowing. This is what we require in most of the cases, right? Sometimes our higher range values can be converted into lower, lower to higher. Now, whenever it is explicit, you need to explicitly specify like this to which you are converting. You should put it in the brackets. Then it will allow. Otherwise, you are getting a red color mark, right? When you remove this, it's getting red color mark. When you say that, like it is in properly, it is getting converted into integer. Now, double value is getting converted into integer. Let us print both the values. M, then N. You can see the result. See, this is exponent format it is showing because its range is very high. So let me take some smaller range value. This is a double value it is showing. When it is converted into integer, it is showing only the integral part. So now with this you can understand that any type can be converted into any other type. Either from lower to higher is possible, higher to lower is possible. When you are converting from lower to higher, which is implicit, when you are converting from higher to lower, which is explicit. That is what is explained in this side. So widening and narrowing. It's given with a clear example. You can just observe this. There is an integer a, you are converting that into double. There is a float, also can be converted into double. Yes, it can be possible between any of the two different types. Explicit means you should write like this. Explicitly. You need to specify into which you are converting. So this is possible between the primitive types. Primitives means like double, float, long, integer, short, byte, and another two types called character and boolean. So these are all the types you can convert. At the same time, we also have the other data types called classes and objects, right? This is called reference data types. So within these reference data types also, this typecasting is possible. You can convert from one to the other. Let us say there is a superclass, there is a subclass. Subclass can be converted into superclass, superclass can be converted into subclass. Right? This is called reference typecasting. This is called typecasting among the primitive data types. And observe carefully, here all these 6 types of numerical things can be typecasted one with the other, but character and boolean we cannot typecast into the other type. It is not possible. Clear all of you? Any questions?
No.
Good. Now there are some other language fundamentals called Java operators. So this is all same like C language, like arithmetic operators, like assignment operators, increment, decrement, right? So for these operators, right, logical operators, we have a very good set of examples. You just need to explore on this basics part, right? See here, first you wanted to practice with the relational operators. You just open this program, you can find an example. Just they have taken two numbers called x and y. They wanted to check the effect of relational operators. First they wanted to print x and y value as it is, right? Then later they wanted to check whether x is less than y. So x is 5, y is 8, right? You want to check whether it is less than. If it is true, it will say here true. Whichever is true, it is going to say that true or false the result. Less than or equal to, greater than or equal to, and equal to is this is a symbol. Not equal to is this is a symbol. Right? You want to execute this, you just copy this program and paste it into your src folder, right? You get the program over here directly, you can run it and check the result. This is how you need to practice, but before you run it you need to clearly go through the logic and then you try to understand this program, right? So this kind of examples are there. Maybe the shift operators and are not that much important, but the better you explore all these Java programs. Type conversion demo also is there, what we were practicing now. There is a number, there is a, it is getting converted into long. After that you are printing. Again you are converting into double and you are trying to print it. Right? I will be sharing this folder, you need to explore on this. This is called operator precedence. I mean definitely there will be multiple operators whenever it is operating in an application. So there is an order the compiler will follow. Means from top to down and from left to right it will follow the order. Means in a single expression if you have asterisk then div symbol and plus and minus, which need to be evaluated first, right? This is the order the compiler will follow. You must have an idea on this. This is called operator precedence. Every language will have its own operator precedence. And the flow control. So this is the programs where just the program execution starts from main and it will end over here. This is a sequential execution. There is no control over the program. Now there is a set of statements called as flow controlling statements, which will have a control over the program by giving some condition. By testing some condition, you can control your program. Either you can repeat certain statements or you can skip certain statements, right? All that is possible by means of this flow controlling statements. Conditional and control statements, in which the first conditional statement is called as if conditional statement. Means decision making. First we'll test some condition. If it is true, we'll do something. If it is not, we'll do something else, right? So there are different types of looping statements. If certain number of statements need to be executed repeatedly, we go for looping statements, in which we have for, while and do while. I'll give you one example for each statement so that it is easy for you. First program I am showing you, if demo. So the program is very simple, that I wanted to read an age, int age equal to scanner dot next int. This next int thing is you have to remember as it is. And here scanner need to be imported. Just if you place the cursor here and you will be getting this suggestion, you need to click on this. That's it. And now you wanted to check if age is less than 18, right? You wanted to say that not eligible for vote. Simple message you want to give. Else you wanted to say that eligible. That's it. Now you need to run the program, right? Give the age. If you give 23, it is saying that eligible. It is not going to execute this part. If it is true, it go here, it will skip this. If it is false, it will come directly to the else part and it executes. So this is what is called conditional and control statements. If I say my age is 16, it will say not eligible for vote. Nothing but it will test the condition. It will check the condition, and based on the outcome of your condition, right? If the condition is true, it will come to this part and execute certain statements and come out. If it is false, it come the other part and execute certain other statements and it will come out. This is called if conditional statement, right? So the syntax is explained here. If conditions, a set of statements. If there is a single statement, begin end is not required. If a set of statements are there, begin end should be there. And then else part. Here you can find examples for if. Simple if statement. See, I just copy these programs. Even when you are practicing, go through the logic and you can do like this. If statement, if you go here. Anywhere if you find this try catch kind of logic, you just ignore it, right? Because that will be covered in exceptional handling part. Okay, everywhere it is there. You don't get any confusion with this. You just ignore this try catch part. First we wanted to enter an alphabet. If you are reading an alphabet, if it is within the range from alphabets, then it will say it is an alphabet. Otherwise it will say that it's not an alphabet. Or you want to check for whether it is equal to x. If it is equal to x, it will print this. Otherwise it will say this. Whenever that condition need to be checked, we go for if conditional statement. This comes under conditional and control statements or flow control statements, using which we can control the flow of the program. Switch case we can say at the end. Before that, while. While is suitable for repetitive statements. Means, let us say in the if demo, just we are printing a statement either this or this only one time, right? Let's say I wanted to print do some logic number of times. I wanted to print hello for 5 times or 10 times. So what should I do? I should say hello, and again I should copy like this. So when I am doing the similar logic, why should I repeat this statement like this, right? So we must have a logic using which we can repeat this single statement 5 times. That is called as while conditional statement. Int x. I am treating it as like a counter. Initially I am starting with 1. And while x should be less than or equal to 5. Means 5 times I would like to repeat. Now x should be incremented. Otherwise it will enter into finite loop. It is never is going to become greater than 5. Whenever you increment, so one time it is incremented, second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. When x value has become 6, then it has to stop. It will come to the next line of the while conditional statement. It means here first you are saying that x is equal to 1. Then you are coming here and checking like x less than or equal to 5. If it is less than true, it will come here, it will print x value. And then it will say plus plus. It means increment. And again come back. When it is incremented, it will become 2. Is it less than? Yes. Print 2. Again it will become 3. 3 is less than? Yes. So print 3 and increment. It will become 4. 4 is less than? Yes. So after 5 is printed, now it will become 6. If you go here, the condition is failed. Whenever it is failed, it will come to the other part and it will go to the next line of the program. This is called looping statement. It will repeat for n number of times. Depends on the condition, this n depends. If you give the condition as x less than or equal to 50, it will repeat 50 times. If it is 100, depends on your starting value and ending values, the number of times the looping is executed. That is called while conditional statement. Now if I say like this, I can print my hello statement 5 times. If I say this as 50, right? 50 times it is going to be printed. You can count. Here you can scroll it up and down, it will be 50 times. Instead of hello, if I can print x, what it is going to print? It will print the numbers. Right? So instead of printing each and every successive number, I would like to print products of 5. Let us say I can say x is equal to 5 and x asterisk equal to 5 means x equal to x into 5 every time. Means initially it is 5, 5 into 5, 25. Like that every time it will take. Or you want to increment every time with 5. Then you can say plus equal to 5. Means 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 like that. Depends on these incremented values, it is going to iterate the loop. If you say plus plus, it just increments every time with only 1. Right? It is going to print all these numbers like this. Following all of you? And this can be done in reverse as well. Suppose if I start with 1 and 50 and incrementing every time with 1, you are printing from 1 to 50. Right? This is 1 to 50. Now if I would like to print reverse, I can say starting number is higher range. And here it should be reverse. Greater than or equal to 1. And here you can say minus minus. So that 50, 49, 48 like that it will be decrementing. Either way you can repeat from lower to higher or higher to lower. And now here I will be doing some small change. I wanted to print a mathematical table. 1 and less than or equal to 10. And I would like to print a table. Right, fifth table I wanted to print. I can simply say that 5 into plus x then equal to 5 into x. It just prints me the mathematical table. Here this is a number which is going to change with the while loop. 5 is always fixed. 5 into x will be the product. This is called iterative statements, repetitive statements. Guys, this is a while loop. And to have more examples with while, we have while loop. So simply it is just to print like I value. We want to print from 1 to 10. And while loop break. What is break? I will explain you. See, if I am fast, please let me know. Swati and Monica and Vinit. Do you feel it is fast?
No.
You are able to do, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, see, in this, I am printing 1 to 10, right? 5 ones are 1 to 5 tens are 10. Now, due to some reason, I would like to stop when x value has become 5. So now I can say if x is equal to 5, I can say break. Break is the statement whenever it is encountered, it just makes your loop to be terminated. Your while will be closed. Though it is supposed to print up to 10, but it is breaking it at 5 itself. See, when it is become 5, it is not printing it. Right? Now, there is an alternate statement for this called continue. Continue is nothing but whenever you say this, right? It just stop. You need to start with this. See, now see here, whenever it is continue, it just stop 5 means you can observe here 1, 2, 3, 4 is printed, 5 is not printed, but 6 to 10 again it is continuing. That is the difference between break and continue. If I give break over here, right? If I give break, observe it is just stopped at 4. If I give continue over here, it just skip the current loop and it continues the remaining times. That is the effect of continue. Continue means it will skip this part of your program for a current loop and it continue the remaining loops as it is. Break means as soon as it is encountered, it just comes out of the loop. The same thing is explained in the PPT, the purpose of break and continue. And the alternate statement for while is called do while. Right? What is do while? Let us see. While is also like a repetitive statement, and we have another looping statement called do while. Do while is nothing but, right? Here, let's say here you wanted to print numbers from 1 to 100, right? You can first say do, at the end while. This is called do while. X less than or equal to 100. Here you are printing x and you are printing x plus plus. It is also doing the same job like your while conditional statement, but the difference is that one is the preconditional statement. This is called post conditional statement. Means it will check the condition at the end, whereas in the previous case it is checking the condition at the beginning and it continues. Whereas in do while it will do the statements first and test the condition last. This is called post conditional statement. Which is while is called as preconditional statement. When you double click on the file, you can see this just program on the screen. And if you want me to display program with bigger size, you can go to general, appearance, colors and fonts, basic, right? Here text font, you can make it. be like this. Whenever you wanted to view this program bigger size, you can say double click entire screen. Again, you double click on the same file, it will be restored. Right? The difference between while and do while is preconditional, do while is post conditional. The same thing is explained in the PPT. You have also examples for do while. While is there and do while is there. Do while with break is there, continue is there. You can just practice those programs. Right? You are supposed to print numbers from 1 to 5, but you wanted to break it when I equal to 2. Means you want to print only 0 and 1. Later you want to stop it. So break. If it is continue, right? You wanted to print 0, 1 and 3, 4, 5. So whenever I equal to 2, it is going to skip it. That's the difference. Now coming to the third looping statement called for statement. For is very simple, which is further is going to reduce the program length. That is, let's say in Java there is an advantage called within a for loop only you can declare. You don't need to declare on the top like this int x equal to something. This is not required. For int x equal to 1, x less than or equal to 10, x plus plus. Everything is within a line, in line. And then you wanted to print x. That's it. See, this is very simple that you are going to print the numbers from 1 to 10. See, if it is while or do while, you need to write 4 lines of code. But now here within 1 line it is finished. This is the initialization, this is the final condition, this is increment or decrement. This is from 1 to 9, right? Suppose now if you wanted to print from 10 to 1, x equal to 10, x greater than or equal to 1 and x minus minus. Now you are getting from 10 to 1. It only depends on your starting value, ending value and the operators what you are using. That's it. So these 3 statements are called as alternate statements like for, while and do while. All are for repetitive statements. We can use either for or while or do while. So for loop also we have examples. Right? You can just practice with all these programs. Right? You can observe these examples. So up to this clear all of you?
Yes.
Now here, see this x is 10 fixed thing you are taking it, right? So instead of that, if you wanted to give some your own values at runtime, instead of giving this 100, you can take some runtime value. Like if I enter 10, I should get it 10 times. If I give 5000, up to 5000 times it has to repeat. This is to be generic. It should not be some static value like 100 or 50 or 5, which will make your program as static. Every time the same output it will give. If you make it like n here, and if you take it like int n equal to scanner dot next int, it will become dynamic. Okay, scanner s equal to new scanner of system dot in. Scanner is a class which is to read from the keyboard. System dot in refers to keyboard, and this need to be imported. When you place the cursor on the top of this, you will get a suggestion. You just can double click on that so that it is imported. Now you can use. And now suppose if you enter a number, let us say I enter 5000. So I'll get up to 5000 numbers. It's a generic, right? Suppose if I run it and I give the next time the number as 3, I'll get only 1, 2, 3. If I give 50 up to 50, right? It should be generic. Most of the time try to do the same Try to manipulate that existing programs by adding this scanner and taking runtime values. Following all of you?
Yes, sister.
This scanner is not only for an integer, it can be a float or double or long or a string, anything we can read. I'll give you one example to practice that. First, I wanted to read my name. String name equal to scanner dot next is a method to read a string. To read a string. And the scanner need to be created. Right? You just import it. You are reading a name. Now you wanted to read your age. Sc dot next int. Right? Everything is object is next only. This sc only, but function is going to change. If you give next, read a string. If you give next int to read or input integer. In the same way, you wanted to read marks. Float marks equal to sc dot next float is a method to read floating point variable. In the same way, you wanted to give double, that is called average, equal to sc dot next double. It means scanner is used to read all data types in Java. Long, short, byte, right? Next byte, next long, next float, next boolean, next char, all methods are there. And just simply you can print that information. Sys out, control space bar. Name, age, all together I wanted to print. Marks, average. Before this, if you try to give some enter your details means simply you can say that enter details. Enter details. First I am giving name ABC. Then I am giving, you need to check the order. Age, right? Then marks. Then average, some percentage something. So you are getting name, age, then float value, then double value. Remember in Java, whenever you read a float variable like this using scanner, you don't need to give F. But whenever you declare like this, you are initializing like this, float, let's say marks 1. When you give like this, you should give F like this, suffix should be given. You cannot give like this, it will not accept. Okay? Suffix you need to give F. Okay, up to this you practice for today because a lot of stuff is there. You just need to explore these programs, and also I will be sharing you these basics for folder. You just explore on this, and again few things here like arrays and all will be covered in tomorrow's session. See, this is the area where you need to just improve your programmatic skills, like checking all the logics, if condition, for, while, switch and all. Right? Actual object orientation concepts will be starting after one more session. Right? Before that, you must be familiar with the language basics, like how to perform basic calculations, basic logics. So if you are interested, I will also share you one assignment. Right? This is assignment. Write a Java program to find biggest of three numbers. Accept inputs from command line or using scanner. Check whether the given number is palindrome or not. Sum of even numbers. You try to do this, otherwise I will give you the solutions. Right? Possible number of programs you can do. Remaining we will be discussing. Clear all of you?
Yes.
Any questions? Monica, Vineet,
No, ma'am.
Swati.
No,
Swati, are
ma'am.
you comfortable?
Yeah.
Okay. Monica?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Slowly you need to practice more and more programs, then only you will become comfortable. Vineet?
Yes.
Okay then. For today I am stopping and tomorrow we will join at the same time.
Okay, ma'am. Good night.
Bye.